Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our Thursday Investment Dominator session. We're happy to have you on as we go ahead and just break down all your questions that you have based on the week and really coming off of our Monday call as well, too. Let's go ahead here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this session now. Hope you're having a good day. Right when you go ahead and see here, if this is your first time really looking at the interface for Ring Central webinar, what you'll want to go ahead and do is make sure you join with your computer audio. You'll see that right as soon as you open up the call, you do have a chance where you can go ahead and select either the speaker setup that you want to go ahead and use, or let's say you have an external headset that you also want to plug in. You can change all those settings right before you go ahead and join the call. And you do have the option to go ahead and phone in as well too. So with that being said, just ways for you to go ahead and communicate directly with me on the stream. So if you have any questions or you want to go over a topic, particularly in this discussion, we can do a live walkthrough. Go ahead and either use the Q&A option or the chat option as well. I will be looking at both of those options for any questions that are coming from everyone today, and as well as also just understanding the formatting. So when you go ahead and submit a question onto the Q&A section, you'll see it pop up under all questions, and specifically your questions will be under the My Questions tab there. Also, as a reminder, all of these calls will be recorded and posted onto our user guide as well. So I hope you're having a great day so far. We'll go ahead and also, while I'm breaking down the LPG deal flow, I'm going to go ahead and release a poll. The poll is going to go ahead and ask you two questions. Are you new to the Investment Dominator? As well as which feature would you like to see discussed on the call? Go ahead and take the time to answer those. It'll really just guide how we'll be breaking down this demonstration today. But also, if you're hearing my audio correctly and everything sounds good on your side, just go ahead and type hello into the chat bar and get used to using that feature. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead here and break down the LPG deal flow. And what's really great about the LPG deal flow is how this is going to be very transparent through everything Investment Dominator. So you want to make sure that you understand the guidelines and really the steps that take place to get to your end goal. So first, you'll start off with the target market. You'll then be able to go into that target market, get a list of landowners, and maybe even possibly filter that list. You'll then be able to go ahead and mail those letters, talk to some sellers, so that you can go ahead and do some preliminary research. From that point, you'll then move on to mailing out your offers or maybe even sending some option agreements. There, you'll do some more detailed research. Your property will be in the open escrow status. And then from that point, you'll be able to market the property with or without owner financing. And really this end goal that we're all striving for, to be able to go ahead and sell those properties that we have listed on our selling site and get that money, get paid. All right. And just a quick information about the Investment Dominator and kind of your part in this process as well too. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we have information such as your company information, county data. This can be also offer requests, whether that be through by phone or by website. We also talk about property details and tasks. And you'll see down below prospects, leads, and buyers, transaction information, and lead tracking information. So all of this information on the left-hand side is coming from you. And when you put that into the Investment Dominator, there is a wide selection of tools that you now have access to. So for example, you can go ahead and generate your letters. You can go ahead and generate your offers. We do talk about our websites on our Monday call, where we talk about setting up your buying and selling site. We could also break that down further as well today on this call. You also have your so offers and websites, and then calculators and tools. This is good for really when you're starting to calculate that offer, as well as analytics to be able to track your mailings, as well as the last section down below is actually the team management tool. So once you really start to grow your business, you're going to go ahead and notice where you might want to add some additional team members to go ahead and help you throughout this process. So there's really quite a lot of tools that are used in the Investment Dominator, and that's definitely something we want to cover on today's call to be able to really immerse you into everything that the Investment Dominator can do. At the end of this session, you are going to have a link open up in your browser. This is going to be the Investment Dominator survey. This is primarily going to ask you your name, your email address, and also how familiar are you with land investing, and really if you just use any other softwares like the Investment Dominator. So always appreciate you filling that out. It really goes a long way in implementing changes for the Investment Dominator for the future. And also, it looks like our polling is done. So we have a lot of new users. Always appreciate new users hopping onto this Thursday call. I really hope you do find some benefit from this. But we do have some existing users as well. Thank you all for joining. In terms of features that we want to see discussed, it looks like latest integrations 1 with custom documents coming up second. So we can actually go ahead and cover both of these topics as well too on today's call. All right, we're open here now back into the Investment Dominator, and it looks like so far we do have a question that's coming from Leslie. And Leslie's asking, when you're using the tool that gives you the offer amount, the market value of the property, where does that come from and where do you get that amount? So great question, Leslie. And specifically with what you're talking about for the market value of the property and kind of generating that offer, there's one thing I would like to bring up. It definitely sounds like using our wizards can actually go ahead and help you to be able to understand that more. So what I like to do is also to have a help guide. So we could go to help, we can go to user guide. And what we're going to go ahead and do is search for terms that kind of gauge around Leslie's question. So for example, we could type in some keywords. We can say offer amount, and we could kind of see what happens. And this is actually the wizard that I was going to bring up as well. So Leslie, it definitely will help if you have this open as a reference. This is the make offers wizard. Where you're kind of breaking down the information more. But also about this wizard is what we have here. Let's see, this right here, preparing the offer letter for a land deal. So all these articles will really go ahead and reference everything that you need to go ahead and kind of begin pursuing that topic. But most importantly here, the wizard that we're talking about. So if I go into my Investment Dominator, I should be able to go ahead and find a record. And definitely using wizards is one of the best ways to go ahead and start searching for this. Let's see if I can find a quick record here. So let's try this record here I have for John Winters. And for those of you that are new to the Investment Dominator seeing this screen, this is going to be when your property is under the pending preliminary research status. So you'll just want to go ahead and quickly identify the record that you're working with. We'll select it here. If we scroll down to the bottom, we'll see that we can now begin preliminary research. And really, when you're walking through this, it's going to be step by step, but if at any time you do have questions about it, I believe you can type in wizards. Oh, whoops. So you can do wizards like this. And you should see all the wizard articles that do pop up here. For example, research deals does come up here. So if you wanted to get more information about each of these wizards here that you're working through with, please go ahead and reference our user guide. But again, let's go back to our example. So when we're reviewing the property, we'll just notice a couple things. It's first going to ask us to go ahead and verify all the information for the property that we're working with. So, double check this, make sure everything is good. You will see that there are some required fields such as your property zip and some more information regarding the property there as well too. Now, if we scroll down, we'll hit save and continue and we'll move on. This is an important step too. So before your offer is generated, you do need to list if there's any back taxes that are owed on the property. So it looks like for this record, I did say yes, and there is about $500 in back taxes, which is fine. So now is this part here. So to answer your question, Leslie, you are generating, or you're basically going ahead and finding your comps, and you're finding properties that go ahead and look very similar to the ones that you're working with now. You're comparing them, and once you add those comparables up, you'll then be able to get that generated number there that we're talking about. So you'll do your comparables, you'll be able to kind of move forward with that. And then once you add those to the record, so let's say we got one from Zillow, we'll paste the link. This is just for demonstration purposes, but let's say, we found it, we got the size, say 3.2 acres, something like that. Sold date, let's throw back here, and sold price, let's say about like 25. All right, we'll add that sold comparable. So now that is there. Again, you'll want to actually take the time to be able to go ahead and do that. Now, also, if we come back here, we can see listed comparables. Now, this is another factor that does take place as well, too. We'll do Zillow again. I'll paste the same thing, headline. All right, size, let's say about 3.0 this time. Sold date, let's say on the 5th, and sold price we'll do about, let's say like 27. All right, so once you're done with that, then what you're gonna go ahead and see is you can go ahead, save and continue. And this is where you're going to have a summary, basically, of the comparables that you're working through with. This is also where you're going to get that data. So based on this data entered, would you agree that the property market value is around 26,000? And it goes ahead and base that off of the comparables that you're going ahead and working through with. And, if you're not satisfied with that number there, let's say, even with all the comparables that you have added, as well as, listed comparables too, you're not satisfied with that, you can go ahead and actually just enter in a market value for the property there. But let's say we are comfortable with it, so we can just go ahead, save and continue. And now we get basically a stamp on this. So we'll get the market value of the property is 26,000. That has 500 in county back taxes owed. And, you do have the choice to research another deal or finish, but hopefully that does answer your question, just as far as being able to get that market value number and also kind of where it's coming from. So one of the great features about the wizard is that it does actually include that for you here when you're kind of going through it step by step. So there are a lot of options. So for example, you don't have to use the wizards to be able to do that. You can actually just go to here to land and, generate that specific number just by adding those comparables. But there really is a lot of simplicity in using the wizards. So definitely recommend that for you all as well. All right. For any more questions, just go ahead and just put that in the chat. But right now, I would like to go ahead and bring up a specific user guide article here. So we're going to go to our help section, user guide. I have the tab already open here, so I'll just go to this. And one thing that was much requested was the updates to GoDaddy and to setting up their domains. So if we go overhead here, what you're going to see is that we went ahead and updated this article It's primarily with the new screenshots for setting up on GoDaddy. Now, GoDaddy does update their website quite a lot. So what you're going to see is that they always change kind of the formatting that's involved, or also the tabs and the selection screens. So that's some of the new screen grabs that we have here on just how to get back to this domain setting so you can change your DNS records. The rest should be pretty much exactly the same, but as far as navigating the new menus, we definitely wanted to go ahead and update that for all users when they're going ahead and working through with this. All right, and as far as kind of topics that come up quite a lot over the past week, I would say that we're really looking at how to organize and how to get your Investment Dominator tidy, and let's say how to track and follow all of your campaigns. And I really want to interest a lot of the new users that we have on the call as well. You'll actually see that your Investment Dominator screen might not look like this on your, this is again the land dashboard. So this screen here, you might not have this tags option here, or some available fields. So let's say you're working through with the Investment Dominator, and you would think that you would actually do well with some extra additional information. So I'll do that again in case if you missed it, but we're going ahead over here next to the remove tag option, and we're clicking onto view. Now, one thing you would want to have is this tags option selected, so you can go ahead and see that. And again, any other information here that would help you, you can go ahead and add. And you don't have to worry about, let's say if you add too many and you want to go ahead and remove one off, or you want to remember how you can go back to the default Investment Dominator, you just click this button here. And it'll just reset everything. So this is probably how your Investment Dominator looks like now. Now, again, we go to view. You want to make sure you select the tags. You can have other information. So for example, owner's ID. Let's say you want to have zip codes, or maybe the address, the city, property size and square feet. Whichever you would see that would benefit you, you want to go ahead and add that here. Also, let's say company. So we'll save, and now it'll look like this. And again, at any time, if you click back to that view, let's say you want to take off company, or you want to take off property size, go ahead and do that. Oh wait, I'll probably keep that one, but take off this one. All right, so really once you start to understand that and you start to see the different options that are available, you're then going to be introduced into the world of tagging. And really, the world of tagging is a great way for you to maintain the records that you have in your database here and begin to work through with that. So if I go to my prospects section, I'll go ahead and see that I have all these records tagged. Go to my last page, and I actually don't have anything for these Santa Cruz records. So let's add an identifier, and let's just follow through with this as to how we would go from prospect to mailed letter 1 to then pending preliminary research in a really efficient way. So we'll go ahead here, and instead of selecting all, as we'll see here, that selects all the records on all these pages that I have. If I just come over here, uncheck that again, and I click onto this icon, this will make sure that I'm only selecting the records that I'm on the current page with. So for example, if I change that to 50, let's say, then it'll select all 50 records just by clicking on this button. So I have all of these selected. Now I want to go ahead and tag them. So I'll click onto tag here. And what you're going to see is that this is a spot for you to go ahead and add a custom label to these specific records that we're working with. So for example, use something that you can directly identify with, something that you can kind of relate these records to for your reference so that you can find them again later. This is especially helpful if you do have a lot of tags that you've already working with, or eventually you do plan to continue to use tagging. which is highly recommended. So we'll come here and let's say I'm adding a new tag, let's say 421 imported Santa Cruz. So this is pretty long, but just make sure that once you're writing your tag that you actually do, let's see here, make sure you click this button to actually add the tag. You'll then see it populate like this in gray. And once you see it there, you can go ahead and confirm it. So now we'll get the message, 10 records have been successfully updated. We'll close that. And what we're going to see is that now we're brought back to our first page here. So this is just our normal land deal section. So this is why it's very helpful to go ahead and use the tagging, because let's say if we were busy, we walked away from the computer, and then we come back, we brought here and we don't exactly know where the records that we were working with are. So if we go ahead here to search by and we click onto the option for tag, you can also look up this tag, and I'll see that there, 421 imported Santa Cruz. I'll search, and then I will now have the 10 records that I'm working with. Now, once you're going ahead and working through, let's say that we want to generate this mailing. So it is helpful for you to use tags so that you can go ahead and select a subset of records for your mailing. Now, here's what you're going to notice. So I have 10 records here that I selected. If I go to campaigns, you're going to see that when I try to generate these prospect records, that I have over 200 records here, which is not my intention. So I want to go ahead and actually only send to these 10 records here instead of processing that 200 letter campaign there. Now, there wasn't an option for me to do that with the campaigns, so there's a couple things we could do. The first one is we can actually come here to all these records, and what we can do is select all, and then we can go ahead to generate documents. So this is one option. And then you'll just go to prospect neutral letter, you'll go local printer, print out your documents, click close. And then what you want to do after you're done sending out your prospect neutral letter is actually to bulk update these records. And you're going to bulk update them to the next status. So that next status would be mailed letter 1. Now, once you're done with that, you'll just go ahead here and update. And now all those records are now updated. Let's make sure. So mailed letter 1, update. All right. So maybe I'll just have to refresh here, but these should all be mailed letter 1 now. Doesn't look like that happened, so try it again. Oh, this feature does work too. Go ahead and do that. Might have been a slight temporary issue. I do have multiple investment dominators open, but that's really what you're going to want to do to kind of bulk update these records. And you'll see that even just having the simplicity of this tag, I was able to do that pretty efficient. So now what you're going to go ahead and do is now you want to go ahead and process from mailed letter 1 to the next status. So you'll then do the same thing. Go ahead and select all. Go ahead and change that status. Or sorry, you'll want to go ahead and actually generate the documents first, which would be the offers. Go ahead and send that out, print that out, local printer, bulk update. Now, the other way that you can go ahead and do this is if you actually come back to your investment dominator and you go ahead, use the search by feature, you'll do status this time, and you'll select prospect. Now, when you're searching for your prospect records, you'll have all of these which pop up there. And so this is another way that you can go ahead and do this. You can actually just click onto, let's say if we want to just focus onto these records here, what you can do is, let's say we add a new tag to these records. Let's say new mailing. And then we can say 421. All right, confirm it. Oh, okay. So actually, I think did I do that right? New mailing. Yeah, okay. So that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to select all of the records that I have in this system. I'm going to take the ones that I want to do my mailing with and not select them. So it's going to look something like this. All the records which have the new tag for new mailing are now unselected, but all 217 records here are selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the status of those 217 records, and we're not going to move it to mailed letter 1 because we haven't done that quite yet. But what we're going to do is actually move this to the on hold status. What this is going to allow us to do, and again, the 217 records were now moved. We'll close that. Now this is going to give us just our prospects list here that we're working with. So this is how you would basically, clean up your Investment Dominator so that you can go ahead and use the campaign option to send this out. So now when I click onto campaigns, I'll see that I have 8 letters here, which is the mailing that I wanted to do. You'll also see that by using the campaign options that the REI print mail does pop up here, as well as the ITI direct templates there as well too. So also if you wanted to go ahead and, let's say we sent out these documents, you just click on bulk update when you're done. It'll say, these records will be moved from prospect to mailed letter 1. You go ahead and confirm that and your records will now be updated. So hopefully that does help you kind of just understand, how tagging works, but also the benefits that can come from it. One thing that I did mention too was this search by feature. And this is pretty advanced. I would say that I use this primarily all the time when I'm searching for records within my system. But I'll go ahead here and again, just show you some of the options here that we have. So for example, you can do status, tag, you could search by APN, also property ID range. This is something that does come up too. And I want to actually go ahead and show you how to go ahead and work through with this. So before we go into this, it looks like we did have some questions that come up. So as far as it goes, we have a question here from Madonna. And Madonna's asking, how many tags can you have on each record? That's a great question. To be frank, I don't think there is a limit. I do think, for example, if I just click, let's say this record here. So we already have about 2 tags on this. Let's say, let's say workshop. Let's say planning phase. I think it really can go endless as far as how many records you can go ahead and have. But again, you do want to keep in mind that these will go ahead and continue to pile up and take up space. So, as you start to get to 3 or 4 rows, it might take up a lot of space within your Investment Dominator. And also something that did come up was another question from Mike. And Mike wants to go, how would you go ahead and rename a tag? Great question, Mike. So basically we have this record here and there's, a couple tags here. So for example, you can either remove the tags and kind of work through them again, like add a new one back. But one thing you want to keep in mind about tags is if we come over here, so tags will go ahead and save every single tag you've ever had in your Investment Dominator. And you'll see these numbers here. So for example, 53, 53, and then 59, 40, 227. So it's numbering each and every tag that you create in your system. If you go ahead and delete a tag, then that number will still be there. So that space will be taken care of. So the new number will be created for each tag. And this is going to make more sense if I go back here. We'll go to customize and we'll go to tags. So this is a great section to go ahead and review any of the tags that you've worked through on your system. It's also a great way, basically to explain it as short as possible, it's a tag management system kind of thing. So under tags over here, you're going to see each and every tag that you created. You can pick one at any time and delete it. So we'll get that confirmation. So you can do that directly from that customized tags. Or let's say if we'll go to one of the tags that we just created, let's say planning phase. If I click on edit, you see that I do have a space where I can go ahead and rename a tag at any time. So if you didn't want to go ahead and delete it, then you can go ahead and do this. So instead of planning phase, let's say I'll just call it PLP. And then I save it. All right, now that will go ahead and update all the tags in my system regarding that. Now, if I come back here to my LAN dashboard, if I search for the tag, it should come up down below, which you'll see here. So we'll go ahead and search that up. I believe it was just one record. Yep, this one here. So that is a way where you can go ahead and rename your tags. Hopefully that answers both your questions and helps you out. Next, again, we'll talk about that search by feature. So for the search by feature, it will help us to reference a user guide article here. We can go help and we can go to user guide. Now the term that we want to search for is search by. And when we do that, we'll see a couple articles here that we can use. So ones that I definitely recommend for everybody on the call now are this one, or is this one, I should say, how to search for or filter group records, how to search for specific users in the activity log. That's just good for reference, but this one right here, it is going to be the bulk of what we're doing, as well as advanced searches here too. So let's go ahead and look at that. All right. It does look like we have one more follow-up question though before we go into the search feature. Just a follow-up from Madonna, and Madonna's saying, how does deleting or renaming the tag affect the records that had that tag? So it's a good question, and what you're going to see, Madonna, for example, what I always like to refer to or just communicate out to students is like, let's say you're working through with the record here, and there is already a tag on it. Now you want to go ahead and change that tag. Now, for this sake, I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the record so that I don't lose it. I'll confirm the highlight. So now this record shows up directly at the top of my Investment Dominator. And I'm just going to click it here, and let's say I remove the tag, right? Now, and again, you'll want to actually select the tag when you're removing it and confirm. So if you don't already have a tag on the record, and let's say you add one and you've been tracking through with it, as soon as you delete that tag, the record will go back to the exact status that it's at. So the only reason why this record shows up like this now is because I highlighted it. But really, you don't want to be in a situation where you have a tag on a record and you remove it and then you can't find that record again. So what I recommend you do, and I'll work with this record up on top here, you'll basically, take note of the record that you're working through with. So we'll check mark this. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to actually click onto tag, and you're going to go to, let's say, you'll add your new tag that you want to go ahead and add. Let's just say a new tag, and I'll confirm it. And then once you've added that new tag to the record, again, the record that you're working with now has two tags, but since we want to remove that old one, we'll click the record again. We'll go to remove tag. And now when we remove this first tag here, which we'll see these tags will be removed, we'll confirm it. we don't lose the record, and the record stays within this tag here, so we can easily track it and follow it. So hopefully that does help you. Now, just kind of following up on your last part about that, Madonna, if you see here, so we have this tag that I created, 228, new tag. If I go to my customize and I go to my tags, we'll see here. If I go to my last page, I'll get my most recent up-to-date tags that we've been working with. And if I click on this one, so this was my new one that I just created, I'll just click on to edit. Now let's say I want to actually verify it. So this is a let's say selling site, I'll just call it. So this is a property that I have on my selling site, which I want to keep track of. So I'll change the name just to make it more clear to myself, right? Now, if I come back to my Investment Dominator, my dashboard, you're going to see that nothing really changes. So the records that you tagged with that previous tag is still going to have the same name and the ID. So this is really where that ID comes into place. So it'll always be ID number 228, but again, that name will be flexible, so you can go ahead and change that at any time. Now, hopefully that helps, and it's a good question. And again, we'll talk about this search by feature now. So the search by feature does help when you're trying to then locate records within your Investment Dominator. So again, if you go ahead and you use the term search by, you use that on the user guide, open up these two articles. This is advanced search, saved searches, as well as how to search for and filter group records. Now, there's two different options, and this one is going to be a little bit more detailed. So if you are non-technical, it will help to go ahead and review this information. But basically, we'll come back here. And since our, let's see, one of the topics that we talked about, that we want to talk about is the latest integration. So let's go back. And what I'm going to do now is show you my activity log. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what the activity log is or why you would use it, just go ahead and go to Team, go to Activity Log, click on it. What you're going to see is that all the transactions that are happening with our outside data service integration, all the CSV lists that you're importing, anytime a record that you update goes from prospect to mail letter one. So all of these actions that are happening within your Investment Dominator, and for all the users in your Investment Dominator, this is actually going to be tracked within this activity log. So, you know, if you are using our outside data service integration, what you're going to see is, if I go here, you'll basically see something like this. And it's going to say add from data service feed. If not, you'll see import from CSV as another option as well. But what I want to recommend and show to you all is that, you know, let's say you've imported records from the outside data service, but you know, you're having a hard time locating those records. And let's also add to the fact that, let's say you didn't add a tag to identify these records. So there's a lot going on there, but really it does come up quite some time. And really there's another reference point that you can go ahead and use. So the activity log specifically, you'll go ahead, find the exact date and time where you went ahead and imported these records. And you'll see at around 4:18, I imported 5 records from the outside data service integration. Now, how does this correlate with our search by feature, right? So there's two options. You can either go ahead here, and if you hover over this tip right here, so we always like to talk about on our Monday calls as to how throughout the Investment Dominator, there are these tips that are laid out. And if you hover over the tip, you'll see that we get a series of numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and write this down for reference now. We have 95178, and we have 95182. All right, so this is going to be helpful for later for this demonstration. But what we're going to do is now identify these records just with this I believe it is the property ID range here. So we see this here, and your first instinct might be, I have no idea what this is or kind of how this will be useful. So what you'll do is first identify your data tree import, and then you'll go ahead and write down these numbers here. And then what you'll do is you'll come back to the land section. Now, you can use the search by feature here. And for example, we're going to search for property ID range. And this is the numbers that were provided by the data tree import. So for example, we'll click on property ID range, and it'll give us 2 boxes. So this is going to be the ID numbers that we need to go ahead and search for. So my first one was 95178, and then my second one is 95182. So property ID range, again, we grab that from our activity log. When I search, I'll go ahead and identify the 5 records that we're working through with. And you want to remember also that when we are working with those records before and being able to generate the campaign, we have a whole list of records which are now on hold. So this is also why it's good to go ahead and kind of work through this tags. So again, we can use our search by feature here. We could go tag, and we can go ahead and select the tag. In this case, it was my new mailing tag here. Search for them. And if we select all, we'll see 223 records, the ones that we were working with before. So now we can also just move basically all the on hold back to the prospect status if we so choose. So that's kind of how you can use tags and how it's efficient. Now, within this, let's see here. Let's say that I want to go ahead and I have this tag I created, that new mailing tag, but you'll see here that I have some records that are mailed letter 1, some that are on hold, and I believe the rest of them are on hold, but let's say if you have some that are in prospect status, for instance, let's say we want to really hone in on our search. So another option that you can do besides just search by is this advanced search. And this is really how you search those records that you really want to prioritize or specifically bring up. And you're going to notice right off the bat that this might be confusing just to kind of look at and be able to kind of understand what's going on. So this is why you definitely want to recommend opening up this user guide article here as well on advanced searches and just kind of how to work through with that. So we'll go here, and basically just to explain this as non-technical as I can, you are setting up the criteria that you want to go ahead and search for, and you will add new rules. So think of it as you're building the criteria to search your own land deals, basically. So let's say we'll go ahead, and the first thing that we want to look for is the tag. So we want to make sure that the tag contains, and we'll look for our tag, and right now what we're looking for is this, new mailing. Now, this is not it. This is not the only thing that we can do. We can actually go to add rule, and then we can add another rule. You'll see it splits off. So these are the criteria that we're searching for within our system. We'll do another one. So we'll do scroll down. This time we're going to search for status. And we're going to make sure that the status is equal to mailed letter 1. So this is, again, you could keep adding tags, and then from those tags, you'll be able to kind of build off and then prioritize specific records, which, number one, you would hear back from. So let's say, if somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, like, I'm interested in you kind of looking at my property, and you want to go ahead and focus on that, you set up your search criteria here. Now, when you search, you'll have just the records here that apply to that search, which we'll see is our 8 records here. So hopefully that does help you just kind of see the potential with the Investment Dominator, but also in tagging. There is one section as well too, which I want to mention regarding tags. So this is going to come up later in your Investment Dominator. So once you really start to use the Investment Dominator, you know, you're writing out your offers and things of that nature. You'll see kind of like a land deal summary. You'll see land deal by stage. So kind of how you are in terms of your prospect records, any skip trace, offer requests. So this is just a good place to go ahead and review, and you'll see a state map too of where primarily your records are. And if we go ahead here, property by tags, you'll also see, you know, all the tags that you have in your systems and how many of each, let's say, how many properties of each tag that are there. So for example, if we wanted to click on this new one, we'll just click on this number here, 223. It'll bring us exactly to all the records that we're working here with. So hopefully that was very helpful to you in some way. We did have some questions come up. So let's see. There's not a name for this. It looks like it was on a phone, but the question was, are these sessions being recorded and archived? Yes. So if we come over here to the help section and we go to our, what we'll do is our live training. So we'll do help live training. This is where you all signed up for our calls. Thank you again for signing up. You can go ahead here and click onto the reviews of the previous live Q&A sessions. Now, once you go ahead and click on this link, you're going to go ahead and see just on number one, when you click on one, if it's a Thursday call or a Monday call. And if you're familiar with our sessions, our Thursday calls is where we're going ahead and breaking down questions the entire call. So you'll see something like this. And what it's going to give you is a timestamp followed by a question that's asked. So we go ahead and break down all these calls, break down all the questions that are on the calls, and then provide the timestamps. And if you're wondering why we use the timestamps, you'll see here that we always attach a YouTube video to this articles. And this YouTube video is the calls that we do live. And you'll just basically take that timestamp, you'll come to this video, and you'll go to exactly 6 seconds to be able to kind of, 6 minutes, 57 seconds to get to that question there that was asked. If you go ahead here on our previous call, it was a Monday call. So Monday calls are a little bit different. You're going to see, the big three, which we talk about every Monday, and then all the questions that we went ahead and broke down. And again, the video there will reference these timestamps here. So hopefully that does help you. All right, looks like I have another question here. All right, a question from Dave here, and Dave's asking, I'm trying to upload a Excel or CSV list and use the P_ID or underscore ID field to change the P status from mailed neutral letter to skip trace. Okay. There might be a little confusion in that, David, and I definitely want to go ahead and reference a user guide article here. If you go ahead to our user guide and you type in skip trace, this is going to just go ahead and inform you how to go ahead and properly handle this. Specifically, this article, how to skip trace property owner addresses. So this is a process where you'll have to go outside the Investment Dominator to actually handle the records and get the correct information so you could then send your mailing. We have 3 sites up here which you can begin to go ahead and work through with that. But really, if we come over here, if we're back in our Investment Dominator and we're in the land section, you could actually import these records as you have them to the Investment Dominator. But when they're in the Investment Dominator, what you'll then do, and they'll probably import it as a prospect. You can change that later. So for example, you'll just come over to the records that you have in your system. You'll click on them, identify them, and then you'll just click onto change status, and then you'll do skip trace. And then that'll be there. And then at any time, let's say, you're working through with this and you need to go ahead and send your skip trace records. You can go ahead and do that as such. So if you come over here, we'll go to skip trace. And now these are all the records that we're working through with from here. So hopefully that helps you with that. And we did have 2 more questions come up as well. Let's go ahead and review them. Okay, so Mike wanted to go over, could we please show how to get to that report page? Yeah, sure thing. So go to land, go to dashboard. You can also just go land and reports here and just click on that. But just showing you the screen that we were at before, we were land, dashboard, and then reports is over here to the right next to the set offer and option amount. All right, so you can go ahead and do that. All right, and then the second question here, let me try to remember that. Oh, okay, so Lynn wants to know how she can get involved with the outside data service integration. Great question. So what we're going to go ahead and do is refer you to our user guide again. So we'll go help, user guide, you'll click that, you'll open up our user guide here. And what you're going to want to do is you have a couple of options of finding this article specifically about how to enable the integration. You'll go to what's new. And then you'll scroll down, there is an option here called New Outside Data Service Integration. When you click on that, and you can actually search for this article too. If you search for outside data service, you should find this article as well. So you'll click on this, and what you'll do is you'll see 3 articles down below. Now the first one is how to enable the integration, how to generate the criteria, and the FAQ. Before you decide on any integration for your business, you definitely want to go ahead and review this FAQ to ensure that this is the correct integration for you and something that would be a good fit for your business. And then what you'll go ahead and do is enable the integration. So you'll come over here, and really we created this step-by-step article to go ahead and show you and introduce this to you as user-friendly as possible. You'll just go ahead and within your system, you'll go to land import. You'll then go to get data from our outside data service, and you'll click on this create new land list, and you won't see this option come up. Instead, what you're going to see is, where is it? This window here, which will go ahead and tell you about the pricing. We also do go over the pricing here as far as how much the integration will cost. And also, if you do need more than the records that are listed out there, you'll want to go ahead and refer to our sales number here so you can directly update that. Hopefully that does help you in just deciding if this is something good for your business, but please review through that FAQ. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so David was clarifying his question that he had asked before, and let's say he has 134 records that need to be moved from mailed letter 1 to skip trace. Can I do this via import? That way I do not have to manually change the records individually. So what you would then go ahead and do is you would actually come We're in the right section anyway. You would come here to land and you would go to import. And when you're uploading the CSV file, which is what you're trying to do, since you also mentioned that these records are something that are already in your system, what you're going to want to do is take all those records, put them in that CSV list. You're going to come to this option here to update existing records. This is going to basically, the information that you're importing on your CSV list is going to match with the records that you're updating now within your system. And when you do that, this time you're going to select what status would you like to move the records into. You can go ahead and select the skip trace status. This will import the list of records that you're working with to the correct status which you want as skip trace. And again, just make sure that the information does match exactly as what you have in the system, so that there's no like duplicates or anything like that. But hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. Okay, so we have a question here from Ewan, and it's more along the lines of the marketing tab. So let's go ahead to the marketing tab, go dashboard. And so basically this interested in, right? So he wants, where was the question again? So that gives the option to choose an interested in property. What are those options? So this is kind of like a compound topic. And what I mean by that is first you need to have your properties which you have listed on here. So for example, my selling site. If I go to my websites and I go to my selling site, I actually, oh, whoops. I'm not sure what happened there. I think I clicked on the opt-in page. Or no, I clicked on that. All right. I might have changed some settings in my Investment Dominator, but I want to just go ahead and look at my property listings page here. That might have been for a demonstration. But basically what you're going to see here is that all the properties that you have selected for your interested in are properties that you have on your selling site. So I have 3 properties here on my selling site. If I go to this interested in, for anybody who's submitting a buyer type of record, you're going to notice that you do have the option to go ahead and select the property that you're working through with. So for example, here, let's say somebody submits a request onto my selling site and they're like, you know, I'm interested in buying a property that you have listed on there. So what you can go ahead and do is go to your marketing tab, find where that lead came in. So we'll say, all right, this record here, this buyer record here for John Bridges, he's interested in the property that I have for sale. So now you can actually identify, you know, which property here is it that he's interested in, so you can kind of build upon that when you're working through with this. So hopefully that does answer your question there, Ewan. Let's see. There was another clarification question that did come up. Okay, so a question from Lynn. And Lynn was asking, well, Lynn's clarifying now. She wants to know if you can go ahead and transfer the subscription from the actual data tree to the Investment Dominator. So that's something that is on our FAQ for our user guide. You can go ahead here, new outside data service integration. We'll go FAQ. Please go ahead and just review this. This is actually one of the first questions here. So for example, are we able to integrate our existing data tree account with the Investment Dominator? Unfortunately, you cannot. So the actual data tree website does have their subscriptions on a yearly basis, and this is something that is only covered on our systems on a monthly basis. So you would have to wait until your subscription ends with the actual data tree company, and then you would be able to add this integration into your account. So definitely go ahead and review that FAQ, and hopefully that answers you there. Now, it looks like we're just shy of time here. But any remaining questions that are still left here, I would like to bring that up on the Monday call to be able to kind of talk to this more. But I would like to end now on a quote that we have. And I really hope a lot of you have your questions answered and you feel a little bit more confident than you did before coming into this call. But the quote here that I have today, I should have it here. Yep, the quote is from Elon Musk, and the quote goes, "If something is important enough, even if the odds are stacked against you, you should still do it." Now, I really like this quote, and I really hope this quote empowers you because, not a lot of people are in this position that you're in right now, and not a lot of people have the chance, that you're kind of building for yourself to be able to go and change your life with really just the Investment Dominator and just land flipping in general. So I really want you to just appreciate everything that you've been through so far, even if you just started on Monday. Just think about, the steps that you're taking each day, and always remind yourself on the milestones. So the small milestones that are leading up to the big goals that you have. You want to make sure that you're staying positive, you're staying up. If you have any questions or you need any support along the way, please go ahead and just submit a ticket or reach out to a customer service representative. You will find that we're all willing to just help you through this. So really appreciate everybody for joining on today. Thanks again, and we'll go ahead and see you next time on our Monday call. Have a great rest of your day.